This webinar is in continuation with the first webinar which I have made in the last session, which is more connected to research philosophy. And today I'm trying to explain to you on arriving at the gaps and how we can write, how we can touch a problem that need to be addressed. So this is my short my webinar connected to. Hope you will be enjoying. So welcoming you all to Africa Business School's learning series session, and this is my second session connected with research. And my last session is coming to you all, as usual. It's a free webinar, and it will be on 29th of this May. Means that day after tomorrow is the last session, which is connected to writing case studies. So I know that it's very limited interaction I'm making with you, but still I'm trying my level best to catch up with you and induce you the knowledge connected to research gaps and doing a good, relevant research. You know that everybody asks this question, like the first question is, what makes your research accountable? And how we do change their belief about a reality. How we do change the worldview about a reality. Means that a belief system connected with a reality, how we can change it. How do a problem differentiate from a reality? How relevant research possible in management? These are all the toughest questions we need to ask before you undertake a research. So these overarching questions are leading to many ways of scientific investigation. The first question, what makes the research accountable? Here the movement is, it's from basically the doxology to the epistemology. Means that from the belief system to the truth. People believe that whatever I am believing is truth. But in reality, whatever I believe may not be the truth. So the journey you are facilitating to crash the mindset of that belief system is all about the research. And finally, you're coming up with a new information which is more suitable to make the belief system concrete enough to understand the truth. So you're trying to change the worldview about a problem. Always remember, a problem is a problem. But a problem is not absolutely researchable. The problems may be very complex. So you may not be able to catch up the full problem because it is an entity, as an independent entity. It's very difficult for you to catch it. So what you do, you have to look around the realities connected with the problem. So the question is, what about the reality? There exactly we have discussed in the last webinar on subjective reality, objective reality, pragmatic reality, functional reality. A lot of realities we need to touch it. So you need to always distinguish a problem from a reality. A problem is not a researchable topic. A problem connected with so many realities that we have to do the research. So identifying the reality is most important aspect here. In that journey, you start with a literature review. You try to identify the concepts connected with the problem. You try to identify the sub-concepts connected with the problem. You identify the causality factors connected with the problem. You identify the effect factors connected with the problem. You identify some of the factors which can intervene into the causes and the effects. You identify a lot of concepts connected with the reality and with which you try to explain the problem. So this is the toughest journey for any researcher. So the question, sorry, how relevant research possible? How relevant research possible? We call it as high impact research. Why our papers are getting easily rejected from Scopus or WOS or any high impact journals? Because it usually never fill up any knowledge, new knowledge. It never fills up new knowledge, which is expected by some stakeholders. So who are these stakeholders? What knowledge I'm going to fill up? These are the overarching questions you need to ask before you undertake a research. So this is the journey all about. A problem, a reality or multiple reality, or understanding. So there is a problem. COVID-19 is a problem. You consider it as a problem, but it's just virus. Unless and until it creates an impact on your reality, it's not a problem to you. Hundreds and thousands of elephants and different kinds of animals are circling around you in the forest. It's not creating any problem to you. You never consider it as a problem. Unless and until it starts affecting your day-to-day reality. COVID-19 impact. I have to sit at home around 2 to 3 months duration, trying my level best to teach the classes through digital platform, through Microsoft platforms. Reality is that I cannot see the people. I can take the classes, but the way of life changed. My social relationship cut off, and I feel isolated. I'm depressed, and I'm having some psychological issues. Cut off from the family, cut off from the people, not to have coffee with them. What is then human life? Look at the reality. The reality before the COVID-19 was so smooth. But after COVID-19, the reality changed. So it's not the problem, unless and until you see it as a problem, it's not a problem. So the issue is where I can look at it. It's a reality. It's a reality. So a problem consists of a reality. So whether that reality is subjective or objective, it makes you the domain, the themes you will be investigated into, either measurable or it is observable. If it is observable, you have to change the worldview, or you are trying to understand. You're trying to understand through basically giving an insight, giving a meaning to the concept you are searching. Your basic purpose is to investigate and provide a meaning through observation. But in the case of measurements, you are trying to predict the relationship between the two factors. So what are you doing basically? Whether it is through Collie or it is through Condi, you are trying to understand a reality. By understanding that reality, you are trying to provide alternative solutions to address the problem. So you're not directly touching the problem, you're touching through reality. There lies the knowledge gap. There lies the knowledge gap. What knowledge in, in understanding and in providing solutions missing? We call it as missing element. What is missing basically? When you read an article, you just read an article. But the question is, how you read that article? How you read that journal? Means that if you try to appreciate everybody in the world, that's not research. That's not research. Where exactly the weakness is connected with the literature. You are not searching. You are not searching the strength of the paper. You are not searching the strength of the paper. They have methodologies. They have methods. They have techniques. They have tools. They have literature. Everything they may be having. Issue is when you have to do a literature review to for gap identification, the most important thing is where the weaknesses of the literature lies. Is it on methodology? Is it on the population selected? Is it on the design considered? Is it on the gaps they have arrived at? Is it the way they look at the reality? Is it the implications they have provided? Is it the size? Is it the type? Where exactly the weaknesses of the past literature? So if you try to just cut and paste from the existing literature and you are telling that your literature review is over, basically you are not doing any activity in research. You need to identify properly the gaps. The gaps means the missing element. The missing element. So the journey is like this. There is a problem faced by the society or an industry or an NGO, any kind of organizations. It can be the process, it can be the engineering, it can be the technology. Anywhere you are finding a problem. But have you considered it as a researchable problem? Every problems in the world you cannot research at all because research is scientific in nature. It's not common man's journey. Common men having so many solutions without understanding the reality. But a researcher usually look into the reality first. A reality first. There is a problem. There is a problem. Take an example. There is labor shortage. There is labor shortage. There is attrition in the company. We know that. You just go to company and ask how many percentage of people are leaving from the company. They will tell you this many percentage last month and the last 12 months, this is a trend analysis. Your research finished? Is it a doable research? Where is exactly the knowledge gap? There is no knowledge gap inside. There is no knowledge gap. There is no literature gap. Go to the HR department, talk to the HR head. He will tell you last 12 months, 31% of attrition or 12% or 40% or 18% of attrition. Then the next question coming up into the picture, how it is happening or why it is happening. So two questions you are asking, why it is happening. Why? Because causation. How it is happening? It's due to this, due to that, due to this is exactly connected to understanding. So when you ask a question, sometimes the problem itself is a research question that to be addressed. And by addressing that, you are trying to fill a gap. So where is the knowledge gap? A manager is facing difficulty in taking decisions or in changing the policies or in making any kind of training and development facilities or business continuity model changes, operating model changes, where exactly they lack the knowledge. There you have to focus. It's not literature should guide you. Literature is basically a secondary document. It's not primary document. So always when you have to do the research, you are not supposed to totally depend on secondary literature. It's already published data. When a person starts doing a research in 2015, he might have completed the research in 2017. He might have published that document in 2020, means that the gap of that literature is already 5 years. Question is whether that problem is already addressed, whether that knowledge is already filled up. So if the knowledge is filled up, if you do a research on the same area, it is just a repetition. There is nothing new in it. There is no novelty. So if you want to make your research original, look at the reality and look at the gap. What I am going to fill it up. If you don't write it properly in any of the research, nobody is going to accept you. What is the need of this research? So that reality, you are telling that that reality is so complex, connected with a problem, and my understanding and the world understanding is lacking. And I found there is a missing element, and I need to address that. I need to address that. That's what I'm taking up this research. I need to fill this missing elements, means the gaps, right? So when you look at it, the challenge faced by identifying these gaps a lot, they will ask you the question like how much definite your reality connected with a problem. Is it vague, ambiguous, unclear, abstract? Or what are you trying to investigate basically? On which factors you are trying to investigate? You are taking up some papers, get the variables here and there, you fix up a frame and you're doing a research. That's not research. The question is how you get a frame. How you get a frame? How you get a conceptual frame? How you get a theoretical frame? How would you convert that theoretical frame and the conceptual frame into a research frame? How you did it? And by touching those factors, how you're going to fill the gap? How you're going to fill the knowledge? And there is a missing element. Who are waiting for your knowledge? So convincing your research problem is the challenge. Is a challenge. A problem may be existing, whether it is acting as a researchable problem or not. There lies the challenge of a researcher. And finally, how to build it up. How to build that knowledge gap related concepts. It's not just the problem. It's not just the problem, but there is a reality. And that reality is circled around many sub-realities. And which are those sub-realities and which are those realities? Means that which are those concepts and which are those sub-concepts. And once you identify that, your research gap is precipitated. And that is leading to missing element. So what makes your research doable is the key question you need to address. So means that which are the, when you read the literature, you got so many answers. You got so many answers means that you don't have to do any research. If you don't get any answers from the paper which you are reading, is the question not at all addressed. So far, they couldn't address that issues or the reality properly. So you need to look at the research gap doable or research reality doable in the form, it's not a duplicating work. Some students ask me this question, whether I should go with a replication of the model from different countries. I used to suggest them, look at, you are taking a model, service quality, maybe Parasuraman, Zitmal, and Berry. His model you are adopting to search around the tourism impact. It talks about tangibility, reliability, assurance, empathy, or responsiveness, this variable. This has been researched a long years. The question is, Beyond these 5 dimensions, do you have any other dimension which are closely connected to a Malaysian context or Moroccan context or Dubai context or any context, US context? You need to understand many factors coming from field are from the West. Are from the West means that the respondents of the West, they appreciated that kind of concepts and the sub-concepts. So when you try to bring down to African scenario, or when you try to bring down to third world countries or developing countries, underdeveloped countries, and likewise, the respondents do change. So whether those concepts are really connected to filling a gap or not, this is a question. This is a question. This is so reality coming from Africa may be different from the reality coming from US. Take an example of COVID-19 impact. After having so much of hue and cry, so much of guidelines given by Dr. Fauci and everybody, still the people are at the beach. Still people are not following the social distancing. The concept of social distancing have how much impact in US? But this concept of social distancing, that same concept having high relevance in Morocco. Still it is locked down till up to 10th of June or in India or in different countries. So the same concept having its relevance in some country, having its not relevance, irrelevance in some other country. Question is, what makes your research doable? So it's basically connected with a reality, and that reality is totally accountable in your country. It's very difficult task. It's very difficult task to get that frames coming to the piece. I still remember when I was in Malaysia, some professors used to do this. Okay, go to literature, get around 20 frames, come back to me, I will fix you the frames, then start the research. This is wrong way of guiding. This is wrong way of guiding. What they have to do is that they have to read first of all. Without having any apprehensions and preconceived notions, they have to engage in the reading process. Once they read the weaknesses of the past literature, past body of knowledge, then you try to understand that I have a lot to fill up. I have a lot to fill up. So this is the most important thing. This is the most exciting journey. What I have to fill it up. What I have to fill it up. So there, you need to read. That's what a PhD program is basically for 3 to 4 years duration. After filling the gap, after identifying the weakness, connected with the reality, you are trying to fill the knowledge gap. And you're trying to fill the missing element. That's the beauty of research. That's excitement of research. What I'm going to fill it up. All right. So this we call it as the gap. What is existing in the world? That's what we are doing literature review. What is existing or existed in the world? The concepts, sub-concepts, the theories, the practices, the belief system, all are existing in the world. So you do around 6 to 7 months or 8 months of duration when your pre-doctoral years are going, when your coursework is going, you're trying to fix your problem or the reality connected with the topic. So you're trying to search around the belief system connected with a problem. Is it subjective reality or objective reality? How can I measure it or can I observe it? Is it intangible? Is it tangible? These kind of questions exactly come. So what is existed? It's a journey. The research gap is a journey from what is existed to what is required. What is required? So as an editor of many journal, part of many Scopus and editorial, board member of Scopus and Bose journal, what I am looking upon when I'm getting a paper is what exactly the knowledge exists. As an expert, I know if you send around organizational behavior, HRM, consumer behavior papers to me, when I'm evaluating that, what I am looking upon is not your literature, not any kind of, first I look, where is the research gap? What this research scholar is trying to fill it up. Is it a methodological gap? Is it a theoretical gap? Is it an implication gap? Is it a practice gap? Where exactly? So what is required or what is targeted by the researcher is exciting point to an editor or editorial member as a jury, as an independent jury. So a lot of rejections there itself happening if you don't write your research gap properly in the paper. So there exactly the excitement coming. Oh my God, this study has ambidextrous organizations. Okay, no studies have been conducted in manufacturing large-scale units. So these kind of things, holistic organization. What is holistic organization? So look into that excitement. The wow factor, by looking upon that, a wow factor of that knowledge to be filled up. So what are you trying to extend? Extension or challenge of existing variables means that when I read the literature, when I read the theories, concepts, sub-concepts, these concepts are not good enough to explain the problem. In Moroccan, Malaysian, UAE context, US context, it's tough. And that variables are not suitable. When the world changed, belief system changed. So the question you need to address is how to get that missing elements. And it can be variable, it can be theories, it can be assumptions, it can be practices, it can be beliefs, anything. How I get that a knowledge gap, research gap. And that is leading to what is required. If you cannot link these, what is existed to what is required, you're not doing basically any research. When I'm evaluating PhD theses from around the world, if I cannot fill it up, I'll ask you to redo it. Major revision. Do the data collection and do data analysis once again, and you do it once again because you have not done any research. This is just for the sake of PhD program you're doing it, right? So we need to understand that. So a research gap is a research question which has not been addressed properly. Researchers and academicians often find it very difficult to identify the research gaps in the literature in their respective fields. Exploring the research gap is one of the most difficult tasks for researchers who are novice, very new to the world, and who are at the preliminary stage of their research. It's very tough process. It's very tough process. So here, this is the gap. What I mean the gap is, in order to bridge the knowledge, you are contributing something. You are contributing something, and there lies the opportunity. There lies the opportunity. So a research gap is the opportunity identification. So if you search in every literature, all the things certain, you're not going to get any gap. So a creative thinker, reflective models with which you have to look at where exactly the weaknesses of the past literature, weaknesses of the belief system, weaknesses of the concepts identified, weaknesses of the sub-concepts, weaknesses of the theories used, weaknesses of the methods and the methodologies identified, weaknesses of the reality identification process, weaknesses of implications, weaknesses of population, weaknesses of sampling, weaknesses of designs, weaknesses the way they analyzed with the software. Everywhere opportunities. Everywhere opportunities. So what is basically the gap identification is opportunity identification, right? So the gap, it is a missing piece or pieces in the research literature, and it is an area that has not been explored or underexplored, not been unexplored or is underexplored. And this could be the population or sample or size or type or location or collection of analysis or anything possible. Look at this way. What is unexplored or is underexplored? This is a question. What are you trying to fill it up? You are telling that lot many studies have been conducted in the large scale, means it's a size, large scale industries. Studies have not been conducted, almost similar variables in the small and medium scale sectors. But the issue is that when you put the concept from large scale industry, whether it is suitable to micro and small industries or not, if you can justify, okay, you're trying to fill it up. Typologies. All along, the studies have been conducted among type A personalities and type B personalities. Nobody has conducted the studies on type C personalities. Location. All along, the studies have been conducted cities, and no studies have been conducted in rural areas. In rural areas. Location gap. All along, the studies have been conducted in locations, geographical locations like West, and no African studies have come up similar to the issues. All along, the studies have been used with qualitative research, no measurement possible. On the cause-effect relationship, you're trying to fill the gap through identification or coming up with a proper instrument and trying to connect with causative and effect factors. How you did the data collection? Is it through positivist way? Is it through interpretivist way? Or is it through pragmatic way? Or is it through critical realism way? How you did the analysis? Is it with the support of SPSS, or is it with the support of partially square structural equation modeling, or it is with AMOS? What kind of software and why you have used that? Justification. And because you are telling that these kind of softwares are not supposed to be used in this frame, this is reflective model, or likewise some sort of justification you have to tell. And you're telling that studies have not been a gap, knowledge gap, and with which the findings you have arrived at or the past researchers might have arrived at is not sufficient enough to justify or not close to the truth. The method followed by a lot of studies have been followed, grounded theories and narratives. And this study cannot be directly implemented through these two methods. Actually, we need to follow the grounded theory. We need to follow the grounded theory. So if the grounded theory apply, you need to look at new concepts. You need to look at new sub-concepts. You need to look at whether it is measurable or not measurable. You need to look at the conceptual frame coming in. You need to look at new theoretical applications. You're telling that theory is not suitable means that either you have to develop a new theory or you have to marry a new theory which is available in the world. So some sort of justification of the method used, that you are telling that the past, when you do the meta-analysis, you come to know that a lot of studies have been conducted with this one that is not appropriate enough to arrive at a sound reason. So you are trying to remove the lacuna connected with the knowledge gap formation, and you're trying to engage into that. Practice, what kind of, what you would say, contributions made by the past researchers. And you're telling that this is sheerly academic in nature. They're not contributing to industry properly. And in order to fill the gap, you have to produce practice-based solutions or understanding and give it back to managers to take the decision. So you're lacking that. So look at your implication part. What kind of implication? If a lot of implications are coming only in the theoretical implication stage and methodological implication stage, and likewise, that topics are not fine-tuned for a business research or a management research. Issue is that you need to bring a practical solution or practical based understanding to the management to take the decisions on. So you're not facilitating anything. So you're just working for your PhD. It is going to archives. So these kind of things are unexplored or underexplored. We call it as gap. So what is the gap then? Finally, I'm arriving at you a short understanding of what is a gap. It's all about a mixed previous empirical results. Means that somebody supported the argument that the knowledge gap formed is positive between causes and effect. There is strong relationship. But studies coming from different countries are not supporting that argument. Why? Because these factors are more developing in nature. It is not developed or underdeveloped in nature. So the kind of variables inserted into the frame not sufficient enough to apply in the African context or Malaysian context or Middle East region, MENA region, or some sort of things you're trying to find out. Find out the weaknesses, and that's your opportunity. So you need to look at the mixed previous empirical results. And the conflicts in the theoretical approach used. Some people might have followed qualitative research. Some people might have followed quantitative research to explain the same truth, same reality. to reach the truth. But you know that when you follow the mono method, there are errors connected with quantitative research, since because it is totally deductive in nature. When you follow a theory and your theory is guiding you, actually the reality may be away from the theory. A reality may be away from the theory. So without understanding that conflict of theoretical proposition, a convenient based theory you select and you go to the field and you do the research and come back and you're telling this is the truth. Actually, that is not the truth. So the most important thing, well accepted and well reputed and well rooted theories to be identified, and how we can reduce the conflicts on theories. And then coming into the empirical methods they have used. The way I have told you that some people followed phenomenology, some people followed grounded theory, but actually a mix of a triangulated approach is needed, like case studies, narratives, and phenomenology. They have not used a triangulated approach to corroborate and cross-validate the results coming from different methods. If all the methods are telling you the same truth, okay, the validity and reliability is going up in qualitative research. But if all these are giving you a different story means that the reality is very complex. We are not telling that we are wrong. We are telling that reality is so complex enough to touch it. Means that once again, you need to dissect it and you need to research it. You are trying to find out an empirical reason the methods which we have followed is not right enough, and there is an opportunity to once again dissect, postmortem it, and move with a new insight, with a new knowledge gap based variables. And you are trying to make an arbitrage between the literature of language and the literature of numbers. Arbitrage, you're trying to make a moderation or a mediation between the two people who always conflict, whether quality research is good or quantity research is good. Quality research is more connected with, quality research is more connected with what? It is more connected with the text and rich feelings and emotions of the people. But quantity research is more connected with the numbers, is connected with expressions of frequencies, mean, median, mode, measures of dispersion, measures of central tendency, then significant test, all kinds of things connected with statistics. So these kind of issues you need to address. And finally, you need to facilitate a change in the practice. There exactly, business research tend to be effective, and management research tend to be effective. It's not just you got some variable, you try to connect it, and you try to apply the statistics over. Finally, you are coming up and telling that I got strong prediction of this, and like it's not basically a research. After looking into that prediction, who are the people going to take the decision out of it? How much you try to, how much volume you're trying to facilitate management decision making, or a change transformation, or a change or a transformation, you're trying to facilitate that. And with which business volume going up, business performance going up, market share going up, people satisfaction going up, employees, suppliers, middlemen, all these people are getting fine-tuned with the business continuity. So what change you are exactly? This is most exciting part, right? So research gap in management research. The literature review process is a key tool and used to manage the diversity of the knowledge for a specific academic inquiry, right? So here, a conceptual model I'm going to give it to you, how you can arrive at a research gap, which include citation analysis, content analysis, meta-analysis, systematic reviews, and future research and limitations. These are the ways with which you can come up with a research gap. You have to look at the citation analysis, which type of, who are the authors getting more citation, which are the papers getting more citation, which are the sub-concept and concepts connected with the reality getting more acceptance from the world through citations. So higher number of citations connected with a problem means that that type of concept and sub-concept having its high root still with a problem anywhere in the world. Second, content analysis reports. When you do that, a lot of themes and sub-themes are precipitating from the contents. It can be industrial reports, it can be videos, it can be audios, it can be, what you would say, the conversation dialogues between the people, it can be interviews, it can be questionnaires, it can be surveys, or anywhere you are getting literature, books, blogs, book reviews, anywhere you can consider the content analysis reports, where the knowledge to be filled up. Meta-analysis, go through the last section, the result section of the research paper, and you try to analyze the research analysis portion, the findings, and take around 200 or 300 findings, and based on that, statistically, you have to come up with an idea that the weaknesses of the past literature, or the methods they have used, the theory they have used, or the patterns they have followed in the process, research designing process, you're telling that it's not appropriate enough to come up with a proper, what you would say, solution or understanding about the phenomenon. Meta-analysis in quantitative research and meta-synthesis in qualitative research, we need to do it. Then systematic reviews. Concept idea. What is systematic review? Basically, identifying the reality connected with a problem, reality connected with the concept and sub-concepts, and or maybe sub-concepts also. Then connecting to the, what you would say, hypothesis-based literature, argumentative literature, then connecting to the theoretical literature, the models, the abstracts, and coming up into your conceptual frame. That's systematic reviews. Then connecting to the limitations of the past research. And that all will be leading to research gaps. And finally, you can identify a problem. It's not you are trying to connect a problem first, then coming to the real. You have to search around the realities to get a real problem. Real problem, take an example, attrition. Attrition is a problem. Attrition is a problem specified by industry, but the issue is, it's not basically the thing. The question is why people are leaving. So intention to leave. Actually, the reality lies in intention to leave, not in attrition, not in labor shortage. So you cannot measure labor shortage or attrition. Just go to HR manager, talk to them. They will give you the percentage. But the most important thing, how you can get the hidden facts, why they want to leave. That is research. That is researchable area. So a reality and a problem to be precipitated clearly. So a research gap and a problem statement, a research group rises when the ability of the systematic review process is completely limited. Research gaps represent an output. We also perceive them as input, as they can motivate future research. And the term research problem might occasionally be used as a synonym of gaps. No, it is different. It is different. And however, it focuses on the function as input for research. Mistakenly, they are using it. Since a research problem is a problem statement, that is resolved means by means of the research undertaking. So a problem statement represents a gap in sets of information that, when examined carefully, results in a call for action resolution. Research seeks to resolve the disparate set of information through the generation of knowledge and the introduction of theory. So here I'm taking you to citation analysis, which is very important. I have mentioned to you content analysis, that you have to do it properly. Meta-analysis, you have to go and basic understanding and how to do meta-analysis, very important. Systematic literature review is very important aspect. So conducting literature is often enable the researcher to both map and assess the existing intellectual territory, future research and limitations. This is, you have to go to the limitation part of the research where the existing research scholars could not catch up with some of the variables which are closely connected with the problem or the reality because of the time limitations, because of maybe sensitivity of the data, sensitivity of the respondents, all kinds of things. You won't be able to, or the past researchers won't be able to do that. And that area, you have to untap it, delimit it. All right. So here is coming. So I'm just going to give you 5 types of research gaps. The first type is population. Second is intervention. Third is comparison. Fourth is outcomes. Fifth is setting. And sixth is, these are given by Salthana, McCoy, and Robinson. So here, other type of research gaps also I'm trying to give you, like contradictory evidence gap, knowledge void gap, action knowledge conflict gap, methodological gap, evaluation void gap, and theory application gap. Different types of gaps available. So another type you can also look into, like provocative exception gaps, contradictory evidences, knowledge void, action conflict, methodological conflict, and theoretical conflicts. All are gaps available and you can to pursue it. So what if this provocative gap exception arises if a new research finding contradicts widely accepted conclusions? Means that a research finding coming up is contradictory to the, what you would say, widely accepted truth. This is the truth exactly. This is the truth exactly. And it is coming as a contradiction. That create a kind of excitement. Second is contradictory evidences. Results a provocative exception. It occurs if results in the studies allow for conclusions in their own right but are contradictory when examined from a more abstract point of view. When you look at the evidences, supporting evidences, it's not sufficient enough to tell that these are the concepts connected with a reality. And it is moving, changing from African to Asian to astraloids to what you would say, Mongoloids, or maybe different from Americans and likewise. And it make the knowledge void. Another is action knowledge conflicts. When the actual behavior of professional is different from the advocated behavior. There is a rule existing. There is a rule existing, you should come at around 9 o'clock every day. And the action reflects that they are not coming at 9 o'clock every day, they are coming at 10 o'clock. Question raised in the context. When there is a rule exists, why there is an action between why there is a difference between the rules and the action? No understanding. So there you have to search around. You need to look on the methodological conflicts. Due to the influence of methodology, means that some people follow quali, some people follow quanti, how you can arrive at a methodological solution. Finally, if one phenomenon is being explained through various theoretical models, if you look into the service quality, many theories are SERPERF, Carter, SERQUAL, a lot of measurements available to measure the service quality itself. But the question is, why I'm using SERQUAL model of Parashuraman, Sigma, and Gary? Why I'm using that? Why I'm not using Carter? Why I'm not using SERPERF? You need to have justification. You are telling that the measurement used by the past researchers on this author is not sufficient enough to tell about mass rapid system or some sort of things. Justification needed properly. That is another. Then how to, I'm just giving you an example, integrated marketing communication, its impact on business performance. Where exactly I can find out the gap. The gap can be the size gap. If I try, this study is integrated marketing communication, and this study is, marketing communication, and this kind of effort needed lot of capital, and they have to invest on market communication. So if an organization doesn't have the money for the proper investment, definitely it affects the performance, like or in comparison with the people or the companies who have implemented through communication channels. And you're trying to connect with that. So there is a knowledge gap. At the same time, how far the people look at the brand equity beyond communications. Such kind of gaps, if the people they're clearly connected to the equity, means that communication has an influence or not. Whether the products generated by the companies are absolute enough to come up to that model to tell about the equity importance or not. This is the question, right? So you can look at second research frame, effect of safety climate on safety performance. So where exactly the problem? It is not the climate problem. Climate is created by the company to get approval from the authorities to run the show. But the issue is that whether the management is committed towards that or not, whether they have provided appropriate safety education or not. Such kind of knowledge is not existing in the world. So the belief system of safety performance lies not only with the climate, you are arguing that it is also lying with the commitment of the management, and it is also connected with the education provided by the management to the workers. So that need to be explored. So now I am coming to the problem statement. A problem statement. Quickly, I can explain to you what is a problem statement. So this up to here, if you don't identify, I'm telling you, if you don't identify a proper research gap connecting to the conceptual frames, and the frames, the variable should come from the gaps connecting the reality. It's not you are just fixing the concepts. So you need to identify the concepts coming from the gaps, and that gaps you are trying to address, make it as a problem. And if you don't address this gap, if you don't address this knowledge gap, it's going to be a problem to you. It's going to be a problem to you. And this problem has practical, managerial, social, technical, legal, all consequences. All consequences. If you don't fill this gap, all consequences you are going to face. So that creates excitement. That creates excitement. So do you have in your frame that? You are safe. If you're not, relook it. So we are trying to connect now the problem statement. So what is the problem statement basically? The problem statement is basically stated clearly and with enough contextual detail to establish why it is important, and the method of solving the problem often stated as a claim or a working thesis. You need to do it contemporarily. That knowledge is very important. Take an example, in today morning, Moroccan World News is indicating that more COVID-19 cases are reported in cities in comparison with rural areas. Today's report. The question is, why? A city means resources. A city means everything available. A city means doctors. A city means medical clinics. A city means availability of machineries, ventilators, lot, PPEs, everything available. A city means. This is the belief system. This is the belief system of somebody connected with the COVID-19. But the issue is that all these things are lacking in rural areas. All these things, but after having so many resources, why it is so having so many cases reporting? Take an example, Casablanca and the Setat region tend to be the first. Safi and Marrakesh tend to be the second. So they are trying to segregate the percentage of COVID cases. Issue is that there is a theory, resource-based view theory. Resource-based view theory indicate that when the manpower and the resources are adequate enough, it leads to the competitive advantage and it will be leading to business performance. This is the theory talks about. Where is the issue then? You have manpower. You have capable doctors in cities. You have capable resources, hospitals, nurses, doctors, paramedical staff, everything available to you. My question is, where is this theory lies upon then? How this theory is valuable with these findings? There exactly a theory is refuted. Means that resource-based theory cannot be followed for this kind of strategic management. If you look at the strategic management, resources plus capabilities leading to competitive advantage, leading to business performance. I'm asking this question to the city people, where this theory lies. Can you use this theory to make a kind of assessment? I'll be telling you, theory outdated. And even after having all these things, and you don't have anything, manpower limited, resources limited, no paramedical, no doctors, nothing. Still, the rural areas reported lower cases. So we need to identify the factors connected to that. There is a knowledge gap that need to be filled up. And the theory refuted, concepts refuted, belief system refuted, assumptions refuted, and there is a need to do that research in COVID-19 cases. So the purpose statement, so maximum you can write, I can tell you, a one-page problem statement. One paragraph is the best. One paragraph is the best to cite a problem. Don't write 3 to 4 pages to show a problem. No, that's not the way to do the research. By just looking upon the problem statement, immediate level, we are connecting to the research gap. So, oh, this is the problem. She's going to, or he's going to address. Oh, what are the gaps then? Okay, look at it. Oh, what are the analysis then? This is the movement exactly of any research. Eagle view, we call it as immediate. Eagle knows that where to catch. And it is very broad view. Still, it catches very fast. So this is the thing I would like to tell you, that you need to look at the problem statement properly. So I'm just going to take you, I'm not going to explain a lot of things here, but at the same time, but I'm going to talk about how to write a problem statement, because it is 1 hour, it's reaching. So next 5 minutes, I would like to tell you this problem. In order to address a problem, first of all, you have to look into what are the challenges I'm going to address. And I'm going to address, this is the thing you are asking, but you should not tell that explicitly. You should, what are the challenges I'm going to address among the managers or some NGOs, some CEOs or CTOs or the business or CMOs, chief marketing officers? What are the challenges they are facing? And their challenge is your reality, and there lies a problem. So you write around 1 to 2 sentences about the challenges that is leading to a problem. And that problem is connected with many factors. You are telling that I'm not going to touch all the factors. These are the prominent factors based on this theory. These are the prominent factors I'm going to address. And since I got a theory, since I got the measurements, and likewise, I can definitely follow positivist philosophy with a research design, which is more connected with quantitative research. And within that quantitative research, I'm going to follow cross-sectional study design. And followed by that, you need to write, okay, if this is the method, I'm telling you, this is my research site, you're ready to sample, and these are your respondents. These are the respondents with which I can tell you the truth connected with a problem. And I'm going to make this analysis. In order to address this research question, in order to address this problem, I'm going to do this analysis. And if I address this problem, I'm going to get this answers or future consequences. Means that implications. And that is my rationale of taking up this topic. So a challenge, connecting. If you write one lines of all these things, your problem statement is ready. Don't write 4 page. Don't write 3 page. Actually, a good problem statement is 1 paragraph. And if you feel that I cannot write 1 paragraph, you can just add 1 more paragraph to explain. And maximum you can go to 3 paragraphs. I'm not giving you that leniency to write 3 paragraphs. I always stick on 1 paragraph, maximum 5 to 6 lines. That with supporting evidences. You cannot make any claim here. Everything should be supported with evidence. At the same time, there is an urgency of this that contemporarily it is very important. Contemporarily, this challenge and this problem and these factors with the support of this theory to be addressed. Then I can contribute to these implications, future consequences. I can prevent it. More people will be leaving your company if I don't block the intention to leave. So more labor shortage is coming. Look, dear my CEO, look at my findings. These are the factors with which your company people are leaving. So why don't you take some initiatives on better reward system, translocations or job rotations or career promotions or some sort of things? Why don't you look at it that way? Why don't you look at an option of remote working? A lot of options you are exactly suggesting, right? This is a kind of permutation we expect at the time you are writing a research gap and problem statement. So here it is coming, how to write a statement. I'm directly coming to what some examples. So this is usually coming as a qualitative. If you write a qualitative research statement, you have to move it like this. The purpose of this The purpose of this research. The purpose of this, what type of research? This is talking about, here you look, narratives or phenomenological or grounded theory or ethnography or decision tree or semiotics or any type of research. What type of research case study you are following? The purpose of this narrative research or case study research will be, or the time you are submitting the proposal will be, or the time you are submitting final thesis was, to understand, be able to understand, understanding, description, and interpretation is the purpose of qualitative research. You observe a phenomenon, you understand that phenomenon, get insight about the meaningness attached with that, and try to describe and try to interpret. That's all. That's all your job in a research and calling. So the central phenomenon I'm addressing is attrition, or people intention to leave from the company, for the foreign workers in the plantations, foreign workers in the oil palm plantations, or the workers in the large-scale units. That's all. That's all, full statement, and it is very clear. See, look at the methodology, the method, and the core problem you are studying. And if you can add up here, if you want to add up, you can add up all the factors which I have mentioned to you. This is a simple case study or simple qualitative study. So at this stage, the research, the central phenomenon we generally defined as all these things, you can do it. So I'm giving you the elements of, so okay, this is connected to, a qualitative research, a single sentence, the purpose, central phenomenon, qualitative words, participants, research site. Everything is available here. Research site is there, respondents available, method available, and the kind of methodology you are following, the core problem and the challenges, everything in single line. All right, but in the case of quantity, independent variable, dependent variable, control, mediating all, research site, participant, problem, theory, all these things you have to tell. So I'm just giving you one example of quali. Brain drain in Kenya is increasing. Every year, about 50 professionals migrate. It's just to give an example, it's not realistic or likewise. Migrate abroad due to unsatisfactory working condition. So what is the problem? Unsatisfactory working condition. And this brain drain is different from previous shortages because it involves not only the fresh graduates, but also seasoned professionals. You have to give the supporting evidence. Don't tell anything by yourself. The crisis in the professional industries requires innovative solutions. You are proposing that the current solution, there is a gap. There's a gap. Current solutions are not sufficient enough to block these people or their migration. One innovative solution may be less structured leadership style, such as steward leadership, maybe a solution, we are not sure. This qualitative case study, see, methodology coming, will explore the perception of professionals in Kenya, population coming, about the steward leadership, factors coming, strategy to alleviate your solutions and implications, to the brain drain among professionals in the Lake Basin region, geographical location. The data to be gathered in the study may provide leaders implications relating to how they may address to mitigate factors contributing to the current. See how beautifully one paragraph can give you a beautiful qualitative research statement or problem statement. That's the way. But if you look upon quantitative, I'm giving you one example. Identity card fraud issues. Identity fraud, in US is one of the fastest growing crimes in America. In 2000, you are giving a statistics. Always remember, you need to be supported with adequate numbers here. 2003, at least 7 million Americans were victims of identity fraud, an increase of 79% from 2002. General problem is supported by the literature. I always tell you supporting evidence. The nation's system of 15 personal verification failed to stop 9/11 terrorists, and according to 9/11 investigation reports, you have to quote the citation. Some of the 19 hijackers of 9/11 attacks had fraudulent identification passports. You have evidence now. You are not alone. supported by strong authors. 7 of the 19 hijackers fraudulently obtained. You're making the claim with supporting evidence. It is given by driving license fraud reports. Then you're coming into the picture. Driver's licenses can still be obtained, or this is your claim. So you are providing a justification of the scenario, and now you are trying to tell your issue, what you want to search. It is used as a de facto form of national identification. Specific problem with citation, the 9/11 Commission report recommended using NBIC system, biometric system, as a more reliable and secure means of fighting terrorism. One associated problem of 9/11 Commission's recommendation is that various civil liberty advocates oppose the use of compulsory NBIC, arguing that compulsory use of NBICs may have potential deprive citizens of their civil rights. So there are contradictions. One type of people talking about it is a requirement. Some type of other people telling that it's not a requirement. That is, you are seeing in America now. Some people are telling social distancing is a must. Even the best chief virology and the pathology of virology, the person who is built around 50 years of experience in this world of vaccine development, he's telling you, Dr. Fauci is telling that, please follow the social distancing. And people are not following. So means that there is inconsistency. There is inconsistency of past observations. That is called as research gap. If there is inconsistent observations coming from various literature, you are telling, some of them telling this, some of them telling, I'm not sure how exactly happening in Moroccan or it in Malaysian or it in UAE context or Europe context. They're centralized. So we are coming to the purpose now. Clearly, we are coming to the third paragraph. The purpose of this research study will be then. Now coming to the purpose. So you have to provide absolutely the background information. The challenge, the problem, the factors, clearly mentioned. Then you tell the objective of the study. To examine the motivational factors. So coming factors. For the public use, voluntary NBIC as more reliable and source means of preventing identity fraud. To fulfill this purpose, a quantitative, so you're coming to methodology now. Quantitative type of study, surveying, you're going to go for analysis, the kind of questionnaire or the kind of instrument you're going to use it. And where you're going to faculty, and so respondents, 2 community colleges, location in Angeles country, California, geographical location, all these things which need to be there in the problem statement. So basically, writing a problem statement, either it in Quali or it in Conti, look at the challenge, look at the problem, look at the factors you're going to fill up, look at the theory, look at the methodology, methods, research site, respondents, analysis, implications, rationale, why I have taken, with all supporting evidence. If you can tell that by filling this gap, I'm going to enhance the business of community, and I'm going to contribute to better management decision making and likewise, right? So this is one of the major aspects you need to look at it when you have to write a strong problem statement. Thank you so much. And that's all connected to my short, I know bit time I have taken extra, but I'm going to look at the questions you are posing now. If I can address, I'll try to. Dear Prof, what are the steps need to follow? Identify the theoretical gap, especially look at the weaknesses of the past research literature. This indicate that how they have done the research. Many times you can see that a lot of articles are coming. You cannot sheerly depending on that. There are a lot of predatory journals. There are a lot of fake journals. And you know that this can lead you to a different kinds of understanding of the reality. Means that different set of objectives, different set of gaps you will be identifying, which are not connected to, which are really not connected to the problem, So you need to identify really which are the factors. Clearly, I need to fill the gap. Second thing, look at the methods. Look at the methods followed by the researcher, whether it is sufficient enough to substantiate the findings or not. You know that when you have to do qualitative research, specifically qualitative research, credibility, dependability, confirmability, and transferability is the factor. So the data is credible, is dependable, is confirmable, and what is the confirmability? To fill the gap, to fill the gap. So if the credible data is not coming, it's very difficult for you to fill the gap, and transference or transferability is going down. That is another thing. So you need to read and read and read. Don't appreciate any paper very fast, whether it is coming from a good journal or I used to tell you this last time also. I have given you this example that many researchers, when they reach up to the top and they become many citations and authors and likewise, that they think that they are best researchers. It's not like that. It's not like that. Higher the citation doesn't mean that higher the number of research exposure they do have. Take an example, you are writing around 10 to maybe around 50 to 60 different types of problems. You may be having less citation, but I'm telling you, if your exposure connecting to different problems are very high, you are writing only one paper and you are getting 6,000 citation. Of course, that paper is very high. After that, you are not doing anything. So the question is, we need to look at all papers, and we need to look at the weaknesses, that weaknesses to be converted as opportunity. Weaknesses of methods, weaknesses of theories, weaknesses of the factors or the concepts identified by the past researchers, weaknesses of methodologies, weaknesses of sampling, weaknesses of population identified, geographical locations, weaknesses of the process followed by, everything are connected to the weakness. So that's all opportunity for you. So somebody else's weakness is your strength to do or to undertake the research. There lies the gap. You're telling that it needs to be rectified. This issue needs to be rectified. There is a gap, there is a gap, there is a gap, there is a gap. So there are slides recordings of this session. I'm not sure about it. You have to check with Miss Geeta, and you will be getting idea about it after my session. All right. Is it necessary to develop hypothesis? See, issue is that how the hypothesis role is coming. If you're studying only one problem, one core problem, take an example. I'm taking you towards one issue, breastfeeding issues of mothers. Breastfeeding issues of the mothers. Only one variable, breastfeeding issues. Where is the second hypothesis? Its impact, its influence. Take an example, another word, strategic thinking. When you look at strategic thinking, its impact on productivity, its impact on commitment, its impact on business performance, its impact on market share development, we can understand. Many times, we don't have causative and effect factors. If you don't have causative and effect factors, then there is no IV and DV. Once this precipitate only, you can put an axis in between and you can develop it as a hypothesis. So many times, if you have only causative factors, or if you have only effect factors, that particular time, you cannot do quantitative research or you cannot form assumptions. No, it's not necessary that you need to have assumptions every time. You can, that's what explorative study is coming up. That's what interpretive domain is coming up. Many problems in our society is very complex, and you cannot get assumptions to fill the gap. So that particular time, understanding is needed rather than testing is needed. When you form a hypothesis, it is leading to testing. When you form a proposition, it is leading to understanding of the relationship and all. So your studies, you can stop by just understanding, getting the insight from the issues. That's another PhD. It's qualitative research. But if you try to test it with the support of proper instruments, yes, hypothesis needed. Hypothesis to be well connected to a theory. The time you're talking about hypothesis, theory must. Deductive philosophy, deductive approach, deductive research design, important. But if you don't talk about, you talk about interpretation, subjective realities, you don't have hypothesis. Still you feel that I have causative concepts, effect concepts. Still, you can follow, but you have to strictly stop where there is no testing, no testing. You have to just tell there is a relationship and likewise, right? So this is the answer to you. And second is, how about mixed method study for writing problem statement? Yes, big difference in writing mixed method research. There are different types of designs available in mixed method. Like you can start with sequential exploratory study design, sequential explanatory study design, sequential transformative study design, 3 designs on sequence. Another is concurrent triangulated design, concurrent embedded or nested design, and concurrent emancipatory or transformative design. Around 6 designs available to you. Take an example, not coming to all example, one example, you're starting sequential exploratory study design. Sequential exploratory study design. So that particular time, the first paragraph should be devoted for exploration of the problem. And the second paragraph should be devoted to explanation of the problem. Means that which are the theories you are going to support to make it testing. So identifying the concepts, identifying the relationship, developing the hypothesis, and identifying the theory that exactly the problem, the reality connected with an issue. So that you have to write in the first paragraph. In the second paragraph, after identifying all these things, look for hypothesis development, look for testing, and look for its implications and likewise. That is the second paragraph you need to. So you need to have strictly demarcated problem statement of quali and quanti, but not in a mixed way. First paragraph, the qualitative problem statement, second, quantitative problem statement, and the third paragraph is the mixed method. How you're going to mix it, what should be the sequence, what is the priority, and what is dominant over. All kinds of things you have to explain, and why that mixing is needed. If you mix it, what kind of knowledge creation you're going to make it, what kind of knowledge you're going to fill it up, and that's the way you need to clear, right? So writing problem statement of qualitative, different from quantitative, different from what you would say mixed method research. Then coming, would you share the slides? Okay, another question. Okay, researcher, how to fill the research gap versus research methods. You know that method itself is a gap. What method followed by the past researchers, how they approach the reality. And you are trying to tell that in the COVID-19 period, in the changing global scenarios, that kind of method the students or the research scholars of the past applied is not sufficient enough to explore the truth in the changed circumstances. Hence, that methodology is or method is not suitable. Some, many errors you can see that. Take an example where you can apply phenomenology. Phenomenology is a kind of qualitative method where there is lived experience of people are coming. There you can apply phenomenology. But you are not supposed to use at the time narratives or different kinds of approach. So where you are supposed to apply specific type of research, if our past researchers have applied different types of methods, you are telling that I feel that there is a weaknesses of using only one method. I feel that in addition to phenomenological approach, a grounded theory as well as a case study to be integrated, hence the strength of the observations can be corroborated and cross-validated, and there is a need for it. And with which we can understand the truth better. Gap is coming, right? So Prof, I need more clarification on these concepts, citation analysis, content analysis, and research site. You know that first I'll consider the concepts. When you go with citation reports, you can see that best of research papers, maybe around 5,000 citation, maybe around 6,000 citations, and likewise. Why they are cited? Because that concept selected for the study is percolating into Africa, to Malaysia, to Southeast Asia, to Japan, to Australia, to West, and to the MENA region. Everywhere that concept is percolating means that the concept is so powerful, and it can percolate to any respondent. So you're telling one thing, when you have to point the fingers on somebody who is an existing well-cited scholars, and you are telling that these citations are quite okay, but the concept is changed because of the COVID-19 impact, and the people are not looking upon these kind of concepts. Of course, it might have got a lot of citations also. The concept is so powerful. I can use it, but its applicability is still questionable in this scenario. You're putting the scenario and you're telling that the concept selected by the past researchers is weak enough to explain the truth now. That is conceptual gap. Second is connected with citation analysis. I told you, more number of citations coming means that that paper is good enough to look into, read into. But it should not. I always tell the students and the research scholars that you should guide the literature rather than literature should guide you. Many times, the danger of literature guideship is coming, and you get into the ocean of literature, all those conceptual understanding, everything will get lost. And literature is whatever telling, you follow that. It's automatically happening in research. Always you have to detach from the literature and look at it, and then attach them, understand it. Then once again detach it. See, detachment and attachment is very important in literature review process. So if you follow others, whatever the other people have mentioned, no difference between you and others. What are you thinking and what exactly others told about it? No difference. So where is the opportunity for research? So this content analysis, when you make the content analysis from industry reports or videos or audios or what you would say, photographs or journal articles or books, any kind of document you are getting, maybe face-to-face interviews content also. Issue is that when you do that, uh, all these can give you a kind of, it's a space. Your journey in the literature review is citing the space, research gap is research space. So the process you have to follow is gap spotting the gap. So where I can penetrate. It's not accepting somebody very fast. So you need to do content analysis. And at the same time, take an example. You need to look at when you go for Google trend analysis and likewise, you can see that some of the topics are only coming from certain locations, some Europe and likewise. It's not coming from Southeast Asia. This indicates that in Europe, the problem is precipitating. But in what you would say, Southeast Asian countries or Asian countries and likewise, it's not precipitated at all. So if you take up the topic and you try to apply that topic in Asian or Southeast Asian or other countries nearby Central Asia, then that topic is not relevant. Not relevant. So it's not adopting the issue, it is adapting the issue. When you adapt it, there is a gap. You are telling that when you adopt, you should be very careful. The concepts easily cannot replicate. So these kind of site-based means that the location you have studied. Take an example when you look into the industrial SME studies and likewise, where exactly the SME location is there. So across the country, SMEs are available. But the most important thing, in order to get the representation, in order to get the homogeneity, in order to get the control over the population, which geographical location is suitable enough to give you the knowledge gap. So if the knowledge gap is connected to certain locations and like we need to get the full, what you would say, application universality and likewise, then you need to closely monitor where exactly I can get the representation. You're telling that studies have come from the locations which are not amenable for universality or generalization. Hence, a study to be conducted where more number of SMEs in the service sector is concentrated. Studies have come in the manufacturing, not studies have come in service. Service sector is located here more. So the location is very important. So this location can give you more representations, and that study can fill up many management decisions. Likewise, you have to come up with the gaps. Then do you consider gaps only as a statement problem and way? In other words, if I don't have a practical problem, I have only gaps. So the question is that, what is that gap? Issue is that people are confused about the terms like problem, the terms about gaps. the terms about reality. So I have only gaps. What is that gap? What is that gap? I have only gap in the literature review. What is that gap? A gap is basically inconsistencies on some findings, some observations. So when you connect with, inconsistency of observations, when you talk about it, these observations on what? It's on a reality. It's on a reality. So the reality is what? By filling the gap, what are you trying to facilitate? What are you trying to facilitate? So identifying, if take an example, many times some sort of concepts like anthropological, sociological, psychological concepts, and likewise, you know that people are stressed or depression. You're studying depression alone, and you're trying to understand varied forms of. You're trying to tell that depression is not, the term depression is not clearly explained. And people look at it in a different angle in different ways and likewise. So you're talking different angle and different ways means that inconsistencies. So depression, the issue is depression is not defined properly. If the depression is not defined properly, the challenge is the doctors cannot give the proper medication. If the doctor's medication depend on proper, what you would say, understanding of depression and its varied forms, you are filling the gap of that. Definitely it is connected to filling the issues connected with the doctor. So you need to find out, you just filling the gap, is it going to facilitate any practical implications? You're filling the gap. Take an example. I still remember when I was in one of the campus in Malaysia, around 18 hypotheses presented before me by a research scholar from Dubai. He was working in police department of Dubai. He applied the 18 hypotheses at the time of symposium. And after submission of 18 hypotheses, I asked only one question. So what? So what? You fill the gap. So what? I have only gap. So what? You catch the gap, embrace it, hug it, kiss it, and stay there. What are you going to do with that? It's only for updation of knowledge. It's only a theoretical gap. Just advancement of the knowledge, advancement of the body of knowledge. Is it your objective? Basically, you're not doing any research. By doing that, who are the stakeholders waiting for you to look at that filling knowledge or the gap and taking appropriate decisions? There exactly the excitement coming. You're trying to resolve some crisis. You're trying to resolve some issues, challenges connected with the concepts. So we need to look at, by filling the gap, how you're going to fill the issues connected with the gap. So if you're filling only theoretical gaps, only one gap you're filling, that's not having high impact. So you need to try to look at around 2 to 3 practical implications or managerial implications or what you would say, methodological implications. So some implications you try to tell that the truth has not exposed so far with the method and the tools used by the past researchers. Then only the study will be effective. If the research concept is very new and not addressed by many authors, your research area addressed by scientific authors more than management, then how to process your research is very new means that basically the answer is coming from the question itself. Very new means very less literature. Very less literature means concepts are vague, concepts are abstract, concepts are intangible, and you have to make it tangible. And concepts are non-measurable, unmeasurable. So when you look at that way, most important thing is, if literature is not available, concepts not available, theory not available, instruments not available, it's all facilitating for you to develop the concept. It is more academic in nature. And after developing that, how far the management going to take a decision, the marketing manager is going to take the decision, or HR manager is going to take a decision, that particular time, your unit of analysis, if it is very less, its prediction is very less. So that particular time, you need to look on the probability of doing an extensive research with the concept you have developed through in-depth understanding of that reality. So if you have to process that research, I may suggest you to follow mixed method research. You start with exploratory study design. You start with a sequential exploratory study design, and you start with interviews, observation, content analysis, field reports, and likewise. Develop the concept, connect the concept, we call it as axial coding, connecting to the selective coding. You built up the frame, research frame, and after that, look at the probability of getting the instruments and the theory. Then you connect with prediction. And after testing all kinds of things, you are telling that if these kind of factors are continuously precipitating in your company, dear manager, you're going to face some issue. So you need to look at how to settle this issue to avoid the future consequences, means and implications. That's the way you have to do it. Is it necessary to validate quality research outcomes? If so, yes. Everywhere, it doesn't matter whether it is quality or quantity. You need to validate every sentence, every act, every incident, every person you are incorporating in your research. Validation is a must. Take an example in the case of quantitative research. You have a lot of validation measures like face validity, content validity, construct validity, criterion validity, description validity, convergent validity. A lot of validity is available to you. And after that, you're going ahead with composite reliability or reliability analysis, Cronbach alphas, all different types of tests available to you, heterotrait, monotrait methods. Lot of things are available to you. But in the case of quality, you need to validate you, because you are the instrument. In qualitative research, you are the instrument. So the question is, how you validate yourself? How you validate yourself so that other people can believe you. But in quality, you know that whatever you are telling is the final thing. So you have to validate your observations. So how you observe, have you collected the data, who are the participants, what are the criteria, inclusion, exclusion, self-reflection, critical reflections, then coming that into bracketing, intuiting, all kinds of triangulation, a lot of things you have to do to validate your qualitative research. And quality is the process, it's not the finding. Quali doesn't believe in finding, it's just understanding and giving meaningness attached with the context. You're just searching the meaningness. But quanti is prediction. So the approach of validation of quanti is different from approach of validation of quali. So you need to understand this very clearly to move on or to identify the gaps. And do you mean the challenge is the general problem? I'm not telling that it's general problem. A problem is existing. Unless and until you see it as a problem, it is not a problem. But the question is, a virus is existing. Is it a problem? It's not a problem. A virus is not a problem, but when it affects you is the problem. When it affects you, then your family get your daily interactions, social relationships, all these things are realities. So a general problem may not be a researchable problem. You need to make it as a specific problem, which is affecting to the stakeholders, especially industries. You need to connect with the industries. If not, you cannot do the research. So what is your view on conceptual gap? Particular research conducted in a developed nation being replicated in a developing country. This I have explained to you already. You should be very careful. Developed and developing. Developed in the sense that the respondents of the developed countries and their perception and their attitude, feelings, interest, everything is totally different in comparison. If you ask me, if you ask Americans, what do you mean by poverty? Now they are understanding. What do you mean by unemployment? Now they are understanding. Earlier, only Africans knows it very clearly. The people who gets only one meal a day, and they understand the value of food. Now these people are searching the food on the street to get it because they cannot go out. Now the Americans are understanding how they have to get the food, how they have to deal with poverty. The same concept, which is not at all definable in America, now they are trying to define it. So the conceptual gap connected with understanding the same concept itself. But the way American looks at the poverty and trying to make that situation move on is totally different in comparison with other countries because their respondents are different. Their perception, their attitude, their values, their culture totally different. So in that particular context, I may tell the conceptual gaps coming from West, I'm not sure whether you can totally adopt into developing countries or underdeveloped countries. You need to clearly define the problem first. So once the problem looking upon, which are the realities connected with that? Once the reality is precipitated, then look at the gap. Look at the gap, and there lies knowledge gap. Knowledge connected to marketing, or knowledge connected to customer behavior, knowledge connected to customer attitude, customer delayed brand, or lot of factors may be coming from the gap. And that should be taken into consideration to connect the causative and effect factors. This, if you don't have, it will be tough for you to convince to the jury that a research to be conducted. What kind of knowledge you're trying to fill it up. Can you give the title of book that discusses method of writing problem statement? I don't have a book for it. I'm the evaluator of maybe around 30, 40, 50 theses evaluated in my life. So whenever I'm looking upon every book, they write about all these things. It's not what they write. It's about what you integrate, what you synthesize. This is most important. To me, when I'm the PhD evaluator of different universities across the globe, when I get a thesis, every problem different and how they approach different. So I look upon the problem statement. Okay, where is the challenge? Where is the problem? Which are the factors they're trying? What theory they're following? What methodology? What method? Coming to what site? Who are the respondents? What implications? I feel it relevant or not. I feel it relevant or not with supporting evidences. And it's going to fill a gap or not. Fill. That's all. Basically, these are the components only to be addressed. There is nothing, because you have a portion in the thesis to address all these issues, literature review, theoretical concepts, everything is a certain space available to you. But this space, problem statement, is to give a nutshell how the things there is a problem and how I'm going to investigate. If I investigate, what I'm going to get it, or what other stakeholders I've got. Three questions. If you ask clearly, you can answer it. Okay, you can answer it. Sorry. So this is the way you need to identify the things properly. And finally, dear Prof, is it obligated to draft literature matrix to derive? I may suggest, this is the last question I'm going to address. I'm getting a lot of questions over here, but still, this is the last question I'm going to address. Dear Prof, is it obligatory? I may suggest better to follow literature matrix, because what is a literature matrix? A literature matrix will give you the methods followed by the past researchers, the theories followed by the past researchers, the sampling followed by the past researchers, and the analysis, implications, designs, methods, the findings, and whether that study is very recent or outdated. All kinds of understanding. If you want to get it, you need to do that. So there only the gaps will be coming out. So it's very difficult for you to identify the gap if you're not properly identify the literature matrix. So it's very important. And don't think that I'm a quantitative researcher, I should not search qualitative literature, I should not search mixed method literature. No. You need to have meta-analysis of quali, meta-analysis of quanti, and at the same time, meta-analysis of mixed methods. All these methods you have to go through. And you need to understand what are the lacunas connected. And they might have told about a lot of limitations. So these limitations to be recovered, right? So these are all in this short webinar. I know that I have taken 40 minutes extra, but I thought I won't be coming back to you in this topic later. So those who are around the world, if you can do the best of research with best of problem identified, reality, the gaps, and trying to fill the gaps through better implications, and likewise, I'm telling you, that's we call it as high impact research. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day.